I hope everyone has had a good day and a good week. It looks like we are live. Welcome, everybody. It is the third Wednesday of the month. That means it's time for the Kubernetes Office Hours. This is our monthly live stream where we sit in the Kubernetes Slack. We answer all of your questions about Kubernetes, as many as we can in the next hour. And then we hope you have a bunch of fun and learn a bunch of things while doing it. Before we start, the code of conduct for Kubernetes is in effect. So in chat, please be excellent to each other. And before we start, we're also going to introduce our panelists. Let's go in order of Pierre, Pav, and Rachel.
Oh, hi, I'm Pierre, Senior Software Architect at Spectrum. I'm currently mostly focusing on bringing workloads onto Kubernetes, doing distributed services, like designing API interfaces and so on. So that's my day-to-day, a little bit of operation, but a little bit less from that in the last couple of weeks.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Pavelas Varsatskas. I'm from Lithuania. People typically call me Pav for simplicity. I'm certified Kubernetes administrator, and I know a lot about monitoring, observability, SRE, and the DevOps side of things. I'm also a maintainer of Project Anas, which is a long-term storage solution for Prometheus. So yeah.
Awesome. And Rachel is new here. Welcome, Rachel. Everyone, welcome, Rachel. Introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me. I'm Rachel Leakin. I'm a Kubernetes field engineer at VMware. I'm mainly focused on OPA. That's kind of what I do most of the time. And then as well as now recently working on some of the Tanzu stuff for VMware.
Awesome. And I am your host, George Castro. And I also work at VMware, and we've been running this project for about 2 years, something like that. And we're working on a blog post on all the things we've learned with doing office hours. So if you're in chat right now, if you're joining us on YouTube, you'll see the Slack channel that we have there on the side. So feel free to whack in your question as the show goes, and we'll get to them. So first, let's talk a little bit about the rules. Here's how we go. Like I said before, the Kubernetes Code of Conduct is in effect, so please be excellent to each other. This is also a judgment-free zone, so everyone had to start from somewhere. So please help out your buddy by having a supportive environment in the channel for us. We'd appreciate that. Also, if you're listening in the channel, let us know how the audio sounds, and also let us know where you are in the world, what you're working on, what your title is, and how you're using Kubernetes. We love to hear all that kind of stuff so that while we are talking, we have a nice, cool sidebar on the side of people having a good time. And while we will do our best to answer your questions, the panel doesn't have access to your cluster. So live debugging is off topic. We can't SSH to your stuff. We have no idea how your networking works. But what we will do is do our best and try to help you get you moving towards the next step of solving whatever your problem is. So panelists, you're encouraged to expand on your answers with your experiences and pro tips. Audience, you can help by pasting in URLs to the official docs, blogs, or anything that may be relevant to the question at hand. Every single episode that we've had so far, there's always a new tool or something that people are pasting into the chat, and that really helps us out. You can also help us out by tweeting, spreading the word, and helping pay it forward. This panel is also made up entirely of volunteers. So if you want to rotate in, please let us know. We love to have new people like Rachel rotating in and help out. In fact, today we're a little light on panelists, so this might be a little challenging for us. So if there's anybody in the audience who wants to take a stab at coming on the panel, let us know, and you can hop on the Zoom chat right now with us. That's how Pierre got started. That's how Chris got started. And Pavelas, you were in the audience first, right? And then volunteered, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I actually won an amazing Kubernetes t-shirt.
And you won the t-shirt. That is excellent. And like I said, if we do address your question on the air in the next 50 minutes or so, I like to give away t-shirts away at the end. But you have to stay to the end to win your t-shirts. Also, before we start, we'd like to thank the following companies for supporting the community with their developer volunteers: Giant Swarm, StockX, Pivotal, Pusher.com, Weaveworks, VMware, University of Michigan, Red Hat, and Utility Warehouse. And I forgot yours in there. Spectrum. Thanks for Pierre. That's fantastic. And always, a special thanks to the CNCF for sponsoring our t-shirt giveaway. All right, with that, everyone, please keep pasting in your questions in chat. and we will get to them in the notes here. The first question comes from Doogie. Welcome to the show. Says, I've got a question for you. My requirement is dependable egress static IPs for my cluster so that my vendors can whitelist our access. Ideally, we'd be able to segment the namespace or pods to specific node groups so that we could have blocks of IPs for different purposes. Running on GKE, it looks like one of our only options, if not the only option, is to use a private cluster and CloudNet with its own hosts of issues. What's the ideal / recommended solution for this? Ideas?
So I don't think there's like a Kubernetes native way of doing this, at least as far as I know. If you're running the managed service of Kubernetes on Google Cloud, I think it will be even harder because you have like very little control. I think you cannot like provide your own IP space to it or subnet. So not really sure how really to address this.
Yeah, looking at this, I think like CloudNet is the way to go, to be honest. Or like deploy some kind of a VM with the proxy, which then you would have like a static IP, which would be that VM's IP, like public IP, or CloudNet's IP, and that's it. And then basically your pods actually talk to that proxy, and proxy actually talks to vendor. Because in Kubernetes, I don't think we have any kind of ways of, controlling IPs.
Any other feedback here? All right, moving on. Simone, hope I get that right. A question about DNS. Can I use different DNSs in different pods? For example, I want pod 1 to use a certain MS Active Directory DNS service while pod 2 uses another. Interesting. I know I can overwrite etcresolve.conf, but I can only use one DNS server, so I either use the MS Active Directory one or the Kubernetes one, but not both. So my pod will lose ability to resolve the Kubernetes internal URLs. Or can I set it globally, but all pods will have the same DNS server? Can I have pods using a specific one? Interesting.
So there's definitely configuration for this, but there might be like that there's alpha error. I'm quickly checking the documentation right now.
Okay.
But you can specify multiple name servers, so this should still work, right?
Right.
I will just share the notes. But
yeah, but
looking at this quickly,
would they do this on the host, on the etcresolve.conf on the host? Like
no, on the pod level.
Okay, yeah.
Like it's pod spec.
Right. Okay. Yeah. In other words, there's no need to touch the host OS.
Yes.
Okay.
I sent the configuration, like the docs and the Slack channel, that thread, Slack thread.
Awesome. Great. I have a dumb follow-up question, if I may. Why would you couldn't you set the upstream on the internal DNS to the Active Directory one and kind of get the same effect?
So for us, we actually we had a similar issue where we had two RDS instances or like database instances with the same host name that were external. Like we had two DNS servers, similar host names, and one of the pods should access this one, but the other one there. And we wanted to have DNS resolution there. So that's why we used this. But I'm not sure if we actually had to do any workarounds.
Okay. And Pav, I see you've pasted in the link to Doogie's question. Do you want to go over that, or is that just the...
Yeah, it's just a link how to set up basically DNS, what just Pierre told.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Simone, I hope that helps you out. Let us know how that works. And also, if you have a follow-up question, feel free to just go ahead and ask again. We have no problems going back to another question. All right. Eve C asks, welcome. I've seen you on the show before. Says, we're using an init container, CentOS 7, to do some IP tables rules to redirect traffic to localhost 6379 to remote IP 6379, which works fine. We've been moving to CentOS 8 containers for our base now, which replaces IP tables with NF tables. Uh-oh. I've got the equivalent NFT commands, however. I'm always getting error, cannot process rule, operation not supported. The init containers is running with net_admin as it was before, and I've also tried adding net_raw. It works successfully just running via Docker on my local machine with the same capabilities using --cap-add, but I can't get it working in Kubernetes. Could this be down to the underlying OS on the Kubernetes nodes? GKE COS, I think that's Cloud OS, right? Which is like Corios. Or some other factor I haven't considered.
I remember reading a super long issue about Kubernetes not supporting enough tables.
Let me
Yeah, so
start
basically the issue is that by default Kubernetes uses the old IP tables.
Yep.
And basically, if you're trying to configure enough tables, we're just not gonna work because we're not enabled on the hosts.
But I mean, he's not trying to change something on the host. He's trying to change something in the container, right?
Yeah.
Or is the network interface shared across containers? I actually don't think so, right?
No, but yeah, he's running with netadmin and netraw, meaning I believe he is like trying to modify host.
Oh, okay.
I found a very long thread from one of the SIG from Tim Hawking going, wow, this IP tables, NF tables transition is bungled. Anyone using Kubernetes needs to anyone using Kubernetes on sufficiently new distros that have IP tables 1.8.x need to switch to IP tables legacy mode. The kernel implementation changed and there's no stable API to hold on, there's a huge long thread on this. Let me okay, and he says he's trying to modify in the pod network namespace, not on the underlying host. Okay. I'm just hoping to find a GitHub issue if this is indeed a Kubernetes problem. So there's a tweet. I put Tim's tweet in there because he's the co-chair of SIG Networking. So,
yeah. And SIG Networking also has their own office hours, right?
They do. They definitely do.
So let me quickly look when they have that. So even if we are not able to answer this right now,
we know the people who,
you.
Yeah. I see an issue for adding NF tables backend for kubeproxy, but I don't think.
Because that's a layer below, right? He wants to have it on the pod layer.
Yeah.
As far as I know. But long as someone that is very active in Kubernetes users and novice, and he basically had an answer maybe that might help. Like he said, uninstalling NF tables or sim linking to IP tables executed, it fixes a problem on me, for me, I guess, on Debian 9. So,
do you have a link to that?
It's in the Slack. It's the last message.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So.
Oh, good to know. CentOS doesn't support IP tables -legacy.
Well.
So long, my concern with just uninstalling NF tables or symlinking to the IP tables executable sounds like a fix, but it doesn't sound like a fix I would want to maintain going forward. Right, like ideally, Kubernetes shouldn't make you have to do that.
Right.
So I'm seeing the NF tables bugs, and it's linking to a bunch of other ones. The reason I'm looking for like a broad issue in GitHub is usually people will tend to link up all the other ones.
So he's also using GKE. Well, GKE is just a control plane, right? The nodes are still self-managed, so that should not be too much of a worry.
Okay, hold on. This is too old.
I can't seem to find, like, there was super long issue about this in GitHub somewhere, but
I found this one. Yeah, container optimized OS. Yeah, I believe that's Google's GKE Core OS, like. So this is the issue I'm looking at here, which seems to link to things like kubeproxy doesn't work on Debian Buster, and then if you read that one, so that is kubeproxy currently incompatible with IP tables higher than 1.8. See, I see people mentioning NFT.
So in that ticket, George, I was looking at that one as well.
Yeah.
If you go lower down, it says that it was resolved by another ticket. And I think that's, I'll paste that one in here, but I have to read through it.
Yeah.
It looks like updating images to Debian Buster. That was, I guess, how they got around it.
Yeah.
I'll post that in the chat.
And then I see Dan Winship says, I discussed IPS in NFT incompatibility in 62720, which is here. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the previews so we can fit all the... Oh, and I put in 62720 already. Hold on. It seems like as of January of last year, it seems right now the backward compatible answer is you have to make sure the host is using IP tables in legacy mode, which I think we got to. Oh, interesting. So on Debian systems, you could do an update alternatives to set IP tables to be legacy, but you said that's not available in CentOS 7. A guy named Champtosh says, I started to play with CentOS 8, and it comes with IP tables, NF tables, but without legacy, right? And you said 7 doesn't come with that either. Then they mentioned that the IP tables user space tools are provided in a container. Let me check that out.
I think the easiest solution would be just basically switch operating system and use legacy mode. For example, Debian supports with like latest Debian, you can use IP tables legacy, and then you would configure basically our IP tables rules.
Okay, here's a ticket for supporting CentOS 7. I'll read.
It's CentOS 8 that he has trouble with. He said he works with CentOS 7. Like we're using an init container, CentOS 7, to do some IP tab, which works fine. And then he says, we have been moving to CentOS 8 containers for our base now, which replaces IP, and it does. So, I mean, doesn't Kubernetes not use NF tables at all right now? Like, is it not still mostly running IP tables? And might that be the issue?
Yeah, but the issue I'm looking at also says it's incompatible with IP tables newer than 1.8. And then Dan says the IP tables 1.8.2 in RHEL CentOS 8 has the necessary bug fixes backported, which might be interesting.
Can you link that?
Yeah, it's...
Is it the 62702 or?
It is 71305.
Okay.
Let's look here.
Pavlov just posted it before you, so.
Okay. We don't have a lot of questions in the queue, so we can keep digging on this, so no worries. All right, Dan says the official Kubernetes packages, and in particular the kubeadmin-based installs, are fixed as of 1.17 for newer IP tables. Other distros, Kate's maybe not. Yeah, okay, now if you keep scrolling down, then you see in in 71.305. If you scroll down, you see all the hyper-connected links where everyone's like, new operating systems are busted, right?
Yeah.
Cluster IP UDP port not available on CentOS 8. Let's see if that's related. Vagrant.
So
I wonder. I'm just gonna see like if any of these related ones, someone posts any information that might be relevant to us here.
should I read the next question that we got?
Yeah.
So did anyone on the panel ever migrate from GKE to EKS? So that's Google offering to Amazon offering, managed offering. And what were the things that didn't quite work the same way, or what possible issues would you say I should look out for? That's from Christian Roy. And does someone want to dig at this, or is everyone still busy with the AP tables?
We can. Pop's giving me a link. Why don't I stick to the IP tables one, and then y'all continue on this one here.
Cool. So, I mean, one of the major differences I would say is a release cycle between GKE and EKS. Like EKS is usually lagging a little bit behind. It's currently on 1.17, and we are currently on the official release of 1.19. I'm not sure where GKE is at. So like I would make sure that your version is at least supported by EKS that you're currently running. And yeah, I mean, some settings are different, like load balancers are differently initialized. So there's like cloud provider specific annotations. So if you ever set something like an increased timeout or something, you would need to change that. But these are the things that I would look out for. So GKE is 1.18.
Yeah, so, you can change to the channel to get the newer ones. They have like a
right.
Yeah.
So, but EKS is basically on 1.17, so that's one release behind. So that's something I would look out first for. Like, is my GKE cluster on 1.17? If yes, I would be less worried. If it's on 1.18, I would make sure, hey, all the APIs that I'm using are actually like all the Kubernetes APIs that I'm using are actually compatible with 1.18. So,
okay.
Yeah, just add to that. Usually, like storage in different providers works a little bit differently, so make sure to look at that. And another big thing is, I think, load balancers. So I think Google has like a little bit better load balancers. It was like just easier for us to manage them, and like basically, for example, if you want to get the client IP back, proxied back to you, it was like way easier to do than in Amazon. Yeah, so little things like that. But I think if you're doing the transition anyway, you will learn them as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's one thing that I have not taken to my Kubernetes clusters right now. That I get the host IP, like the request IP from the right, like the forwarded header or whatever.
Look at this. So Pop left. Thanks, Christian. We have room for follow-up questions here while we finish up this IP tables one. Pop, welcome to the show. Sent us a link here to the Kubernetes website. It says, if your system's IP tables tooling uses the NF tables backend, you will need to switch the IP tables tooling to legacy mode to avoid these problems. Okay, I think we determined that. This is the case on at least Debian 10, Ubuntu 19.04, Fedora 29, and newer releases of these distributions by default. RHEL 8, which is CentOS 8 also, right, is based off RHEL 8, or the other way around, does not support switching to legacy mode and is therefore incompatible with current kubadmin packages. Well, I can't believe that.
Yes, that's the official answer.
I can't believe
not supported.
How old is CentOS? CentOS 8 is that old. How old am I? CentOS 8.
I mean, I'm just.
I mean, it's too new. I mean, I just can't.
I'm just surprised that we just say, hey, we don't support Rail 8, because I mean that's like one of the this is the only enterprise distribution in this list, I guess so, right? So
I'm just
I mean,
surprised.
the whole issue is really hard with like switching IP tables, because I mean that I remember reading that issue a while back. Maybe my knowledge is out of date a
Yeah.
little bit, but like, so basically, because kubeproxy comes already with, you just basically you have like a Debian image which installs IP tables, and then it actually connects to host and adds those IP tables. And basically, if you are using, you basically, if you are installing a different kind of like NF tables into that image, and your host is using legacy tables, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the whole issue is really, really hard. I remember.
Oh, and Wally goes, RHEL 7 and 8 use firewall D by default, not IP tables. Like, Kubernetes on RHEL 7 and 8 use firewall D by default, not IP tables?
I think you can.
Or are they
install
switching?
IP
Is everyone
tables.
switching? Is this one of those things where everyone's switching over to firewall D and everyone's caught in the middle? Yeah. I don't know. I always thought CentOS and RHEL always had like these kind of legacy stuff and support. I can't believe they're not shipping the IP tables legacy stuff. I mean, I could see reasons why you wouldn't.
Yeah, it's weird because it's CentOS. It's usually
Yeah,
like
it's usually the last one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I come from a Debian Ubuntu background, so this is all surprising to me. Interesting. But let's still show them how to find the SIG network office hours. Because
sure.
The people that work on this stuff every day probably are doing a better job than us digging in GitHub the best that we can. I'll find that information and paste it in Slack. I got that, Pierre. Meanwhile, we're about halfway through. So if anybody has more questions, please feel free to whack them in the channel there. We've only gone through a few of them, but that's fine. Let's see here. Now we'll get the meetings here. SIG network.
I just posted it. It's,
okay.
Already Slack. So also in the link is the mailing list link, I think. And
Okay,
it might be
yeah.
worth to send a link there, like your question there as well.
Right.
There's a lot of people there, very knowledgeable, usually very well involved, and care about stuff that runs.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so Waleed goes on to Waleed. I'm really glad you know a lot about RHEL. Says RHEL 8. No, it doesn't. IP table source RPM includes IP tables legacy. However, the RPM spec drops the legacy ones. So if you want, that might be an option for you. Grab the spec file and just build a legacy RPM.
I would just be wondering why they decided to drop it. Like, there might be some underlying issues or causes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's usually Ubuntu that's dropping all the old legacy stuff, and then the CentOS stuff gets to it like 2 years later. I think that's really interesting. And Waleed there's leaving you a link there on the IP table thing. So I guess then at that point, though, you're effectively maintaining your own IP tables package for your infrastructure, right?
So I actually got the same link that Balita posted. The thing is, it's behind a paywall, I think. Like it's you need to be customer of Red Hat. I mean, it makes sense. RHEL 8 is enterprise solution, right? So.
Yeah, but I'm sure you have the same RPM in CentOS, right?
I would guess so.
Yeah, it's just the instructions are paywalled.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that. Whatever.
Yeah, I just looked at CentOS 7, and turns out like CentOS 7 end of life is like 2024. So like there are like you still have like about 4 years of like getting security updates and everything into CentOS 7. So maybe it's worth an effort to just like wait this issue out, and just basically until somebody figures out. Yeah.
And I know there are Red Hatters who are in SIG network you can't be the first person that this is having a problem with, right? So maybe there's a maybe they've answered the question before, or at least have a better answer that can actually help you out. All right, we got more questions. I hope that gets you.
Started.
Who was this? Eve C. I hope this gets you started, at least hopping in the right direction. For sure, stop and Sig Network, and give them that feedback there. That would be useful. Okay. Meanwhile, for the rest of us, what is? Someone mentioned Firewall D, NF tables. What are people using now? What should everyone be using?
I think it's IP tables legacy mode. Or like IP tables, I guess, is what Kubernetes is using.
Right. So like, will Kubernetes here we go. Oh no, that's a flannel bug. Like eventually, is everyone switching over to Firewall D? Does anyone keeping track? I'm hoping Waleed is keeping track of distro news here. Like at some point, do we all switch to NF tables, Firewall D? I've even heard of Firewall D. Is this a new system D thing? A service daemon with a dbus interface. Interesting. All right, I will have to check that later. I don't want to bog us down going into every firewall thing for all the distros and what they're doing. But that is very interesting. Hopefully that'll help you get started and let us know. And that would be awesome. There's some discussion now about the next question, which I'm going to go ahead and read. Any tool recommendations for Kubernetes security benchmarking? Everything I've seen so far is not configurable enough to cater for non-vanilla deployments of Kubernetes. Non-vanilla is in quotes. I don't know what that means. But hopefully it's Kubernetes enough. We've had this question asked before. Of course, kubench always gets mentioned. Let's see. Panel, what have you all been recommending here on the side here to Angelos?
Yeah, I mean, someone mentioned Sonoboy. I know you can create custom plugins for that. So if you need to do that, you can do that as well. Of course, Pop is on, and I love Sysdig, so
yep.
If he's got something there. I'm trying to see if there's anything else.
What do you got for us, Pop? Does Pop want to join the panel? Can someone sneak Pop the?
I can try to.
Yeah, sneak Pop the Zoom URL.
Let me find it.
I've been using KubeHunter. It's a really cool tool. It does like active.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a new.
From Aqua Security. Yes.
I posted a couple of links in the HackMD. I have not yet had the time to post on the Slack.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna look at KubeHunter real quick. Okay, it's another one from Aqua. It's like the second.
Yeah, it's really cool. It does like active kind of. It scans all your ports, finds
you
all
should
the.
not run
API
KubeHunter
services.
on a Kubernetes cluster you don't own. It tells you right up front.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, we actually found like a really big issue with KubeHunter. So yeah, I'm really happy that I used it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Wally does mention he wants benchmark, not just like a security thing. Pop, can you give us a TLDR on the Sysdig thing while you're in there? And which one's this one? Chekhov. Let's look at this one. See, Rachel, this is why I started the show. This is how I learn all the cool tools all the kids are using.
I know. I'm learning something new as well.
Okay, Chekhov by Bridge Crew. Static code analysis tool for infrastructure code. Does this benchmark anything, though?
No, it just reports. So
Okay.
that doesn't answer the question.
Yeah. Still interesting, though. Something I do, everyone who's listening in, is we take all the URLs and I whack them in the show notes on the forums afterwards. So you can always just subscribe to the notes and get all the URLs and stuff that we're talking about. So if you see them on the side there in Slack, and don't worry about writing them down and stuff, we'll give you a list of links there. Agustin Holgrave says, I've seen good things in Argo. For example, Argo's custom rollout, which is a deployment, but nicer. The fact that this exists can mean vanilla Kate's deployment may be getting a little bit incomplete. Do you know if there are any plans on improving the deployment? Oh, this is a separate question. Sorry.
Yeah. I will copy that
Augustine,
over.
we will get to your question here in a minute. Pop says pretty much the sysdig tool allows benchmark customizations and provide a metric if you want to populate this data to something like Grafana. Cool. That's definitely interesting. And not really a question, but Konstantinos is asking, hey, Kos, do people use Kubernetes and Containerd on XFS, Btrfs, and ZFS? How is the support there? So those of you using different file systems, let us know. Let Konstantinos know in Slack there. Okay, anything else when it comes to benchmarking here?
No, I guess not. But we actually got a new question from Yogi.
Yes, we do. Okay, moving on to Yogi's question. Thanks for keep me going on the pace there. Yogi says contributing to the Kubernetes documentation is very complicated. Is there a video tutorial? Create issues, create PRs. So this is an area I contribute to regularly. I don't know if there are any video resources. However, I use.
There's a document, right? The SIG Contribex recently, I think in the last quarter, published like how to contribute to documentation.
Yep.
In the community repro.
And there's an entire contributor guide to the Kubernetes docs. 1 second.
So, guides.
It's just /docs/contribute. While he says there's a KubeCon EU 2020 talk, if someone can find that, that'd be great. I know they're on YouTube now, YouTube CNCF.
I'm on there now. Let's see.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Rachel. So looking at the Contributed Kubernetes docs, there's a guide there. I just fork the repository and create a branch because it's in Markdown, and then there's a README in there for building it locally with Hugo.
And if there's generally any feedback, I think SIG Contribex is a good channel to provide that feedback.
Yeah.
Because SIG Contribex owns the documentation, right?
No, SIG Docs.
Oh, no,
the documentation.
SIG Docs. Okay,
Yes.
Sorry. Then at SIG Docs, the Slack channel, if there's any more issues, go there.
Yeah, I would say if you're serious about getting, like if you're just trying to get one thing fixed and you want to do one-off, do the contributor guide and do that. But if you're interested on a regular basis, seriously go to a SIG Docs meeting. It was the first SIG, it was one of the first SIGs I was involved in. They're very friendly, and they will absolutely help you get a workflow down for contributing. But yeah, theoretically, like you can hit, like if you go to a Kubernetes docs page on the right, it says edit this page, you can click on that, right? And it will take you to, hey, Chris is here. And it will take you to right to GitHub, and you can edit it. The problem is if you're not familiar with GitHub and stuff already, that might be too complex for you, right off the bat kind of thing. But I would definitely get involved there. If not, if you can do, can one of you record on your next contribution? The issue template is huge. That is a good idea. I'm going to Todoist that. Todoist. And I'll go ahead and pass that along to someone. I've debated just doing things like just recording people fixing issues and stuff in GitHub, or like on Twitch or something. Record contributing a fix to the docs. This video might exist somewhere already. But yeah, those are some links there to help you get started. And then that's definitely good feedback. There should definitely be thinking about it, there should definitely be in the YouTube channel for Kubernetes, like how to contribute to documentation, right? And it's just like Jimmy typing, right? And Yogi says, I've done PRs for other projects and I'm okay with GitHub. Yeah, the issue I found with contributing to docs is you got to run Hugo, right? Because you can generate the page to make sure that it renders right. And then sometimes, like the first time I did it, my version of Hugo was different on my PC than what the project was using, so it rendered different. So then there's like a little Docker thing that you run in there to ensure that you're running the same Hugo that everyone does. And then when you do a PR, we have Netlify. It generates an entire preview for you, and it looks like totally sweet, and that's all great. But you wouldn't know that if you weren't contributing already. So I hear you. I hear you. We could probably definitely.
But generally speaking, I think the SIG Docs meeting, if it's any, like I have never attended it, but if it's anyone like similar to the SIG Contribux meeting, like you will find people there that want to get help to contribute to documentation. So
yes.
Like
that's our way of saying, please go to the meeting and consider joining, because we always appreciate documentation contributions. So thanks for that. All right. Anything else when it comes to contributing SIG Docs? Any of you contributed to SIG Docs? Am I the only one?
Never contributed something
tip,
back.
Anyone in the community can submit a blog to that Kubernetes website and blog on the official thing. You just got to do a PR, and you do it in text using Hugo. It's pretty dope. So if you fancy yourself writing a blog post for Kubernetes, that's how that works. All right, so we covered security. Thanks, Yogi, for the question. We hope that gets you started. Augustin Hulgrave, hope I got that right. Welcome to the show. We got about 10 minutes left. Says, I've seen good. Oh, Chris Carty, introduce yourself real quick since you just joined us.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. So, hi, I'm Chris. I'm broadcasting from Ottawa, Ontario. I'm currently a customer engineer with Google Cloud Canada. Before that, I was running on-prem Kubernetes for a municipality up here. So it's kind of my domain of expertise.
Yes. Ottawa,
Yeah.
All right.
Augustin. A lot of Canadian bacon.
Yes. Welcome to the show. Augustin says, I've seen good things in Argo. For example, Argo's custom rollout, which is a deployment, but nicer. The fact that this exists. Wait, hold on. I think my text got cut off. Oh, okay. The fact that this exists, I could mean that vanilla Kubernetes deployment may getting a little bit incomplete. Do you know if there are any plans for improving the deployment resource? Kind of unclear on this one.
So, I mean, Argo does a little more than just like custom rollout, I would guess. It's like percentile rollout, I guess, is what's meant here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you deploy 10% with a new version and 80 and 90% are still on the older version, like canary releases.
Yeah.
And right. So, I mean, you can do the same thing still with like Nginx ingress and normal deployments. It's just like different in a way where the logic is handled. So I would think that, I'm not sure if there's any advancements planned, but I would say no.
Yeah, I would kind of lean towards that because you have tools like that. You have Flagger, things like Istio, Linkerd that can control something like some parts of that aspect. So I think they're leaving it as the building block. But what is this SIG be for that API machinery to check there? So they might have more insight.
Let's see, who owns deployments? Let me see. Speaking about docs, it'd be great if at the bottom of every documentation page, it told you what's the owner would be. Feature.
Yeah. I'm looking at the last merge request and trying to find out who reviewed it.
Okay, we'll give you a second there. Any other questions while Pierre is digging? And Argo only goes on top of Kubernetes, right? There's no such thing as an Argo operator, is there? I'm just curious, thinking out loud here. Oh, there is.
It's an operator. But yeah, it just does like trafficking routing for you and manipulates your ingress resources accordingly. So at least how far I know, like I've never used Argo.
Yeah, I'm looking at the.
I've used it little. It's really nice for that kind of stuff, and you can. I think. So when they were trying to merge Flux and Argo, one of the things that Argo had was that you could say you have 3 things in a row or deployments in a row. I think you could like do Istio first, then Prometheus, and then something else. So you could kind of control your rollout a little bit more granularly, which is really cool. Okay, so Augustine just provided the rollouts there. I haven't heard of any plans to change vanilla deployments to that level of detail. But that being said, someone out there might have that underway.
Yeah. And looking at the issues that are related to deployment, it always seems to be SIG API machinery. So Chris was right. So at least that's what I guess right now. Like, considering all these different resources here, like if you want to modify your rollout strategy, you usually have to at least somehow change the way you serve your traffic or get your traffic. So like it's, in my opinion, a little bit out of scope for the deployment spec. But just that's my opinion. Like I'm not contributing actively to that part of Kubernetes, so I don't know. Maybe they have plans for that. But.
Yeah.
Just quickly trying to look over if there's any questions that I've missed or we have missed.
Yeah, we have time for one or two more if anyone has a quick one. Sorry, our answer there, Augustine, isn't as detailed or as deep as you probably like, but I don't think there's any major changes there.
I can quickly go to the proposals and see if there's something there. But
yeah. Yogi has a question. Is pod preset deprecated? What would be a good replacement if so? And then if y'all can tackle that question, I will do the t-shirt giveaway here.
I haven't touched pod preset, to be fully honest with you.
I've used it before, but I don't think it's gonna go away. Like, what gave you the idea? Because I'm trying to find it whether it is deprecated and can't find the info.
Yeah, it's okay. If there was any plan to be more visible, I guess that answers my question. Yeah. Would have you all seen the new feature, the deprecated API warning thing that it gives you now? That was on the blog. That's where I'm going to start paying a lot more attention. Yes. So if you, I definitely want to get this out there because this is important. So from now on,
why does it give you a warning?
Yep. If you're using a deprecated API will actually tell you in the terminal instead of you like wondering.
Oh, on deployment.
Yeah, so it'll spam you now, which is like, yay.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that also should make upgrades much easier, right? Like
it
if
should
you
make
go for two.
all of our lives way much easier. All right.
That's awesome.
I've rolled the dice. And we've figured out the t-shirts. Angelos, Mimidis, and Augustine, you've won the Kubernetes t-shirt because we've brought your question on the air. So right after this, I will PM you and let you know how that works. I'll give you a code to the CNCF store, and then you can go get a Kubernetes shirt, which we always forget to wear on the actual show, but it looks like this, except with a Kubernetes logo. You might have seen it. So thanks for participating. We got time for maybe one more quick one if anyone has any interesting, useful, or say, Pop, you got any cool tools or anything you want to share with everyone? Since, he always has all the cool stuff. You got a link there to Pod Preset. Let's see, warnings. Wally brings a good point, maybe because it's still alpha since 1.6. Yep. Today on the Popcast, drop a link to the Popcast because I think you all should be listening to this. If you like Kubernetes content, you definitely want to check this out. Oh, with Darren Shepard from Rancher / So do we still call them Rancher or do we just call them all Sousa? I don't know what we call them. So follow Popcast on Twitter He's always interviewing interesting people from around the Kubernetes community, and you always learn something on that as well. Thanks for that.
Actually, I have one more question. I think I read something about Kubernetes now having like release cycle for alpha and beta APIs that they get removed, if they don't graduate to fully in like 4 release cycles or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have a year.
Yeah.
Did that get blogged? Hold on.
I read about it somewhere. It might have been on moving forward from beta. It is the blog post. This is actually super interesting, and it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on the Kubernetes 6.
Eric got the link.
Yeah. Because there was a feature that just landed that has been in beta forever, and we use it a lot. We just went over it on TGIK. I was like, that was still in beta?
Yeah, the same as like with the pod preset. I actually didn't know it existed, and like it seems to be in beta since 1.6, right? So like, what's going on with this issue? This should move it forward,
right?
Like,
and Ingress is now GA finally.
Yeah, that's what Ingress. I was like, Ingress is GA. I was like, Ingress isn't GA? What are you kidding me? Yeah. Thanks, Yogi. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I remember. I was like, what? And then we had
PSPs.
Yeah, we went to go figure out when Ingress got added, and it was a long time. It was like 1.4.
1.4.
It was something. It's been a long time. I was just really surprised. So that I +1 to that. Yeah. That's a really good idea. 1.4, yeah. Man,
might be. I'm not sure. But I think it's 1.4.
Yeah,
Yogi echoed that.
Yeah, we literally just went over this at TGIK. I remember going through all the release notes back, trying to find out when Ingress was started, and I went all the way back to 1.4. I just forgotten, but yeah, that's interesting. All right. So with that, I've been talking to the West Coast panelists. There's definitely going to be a show for the West Coast Americans sometime this afternoon. We're going to shoot for 5... Well, I haven't gotten confirmation yet. So we're going to shoot for 5 p.m. Pacific time is going to what we're going to shoot for. I will sticky that in the Office Hours channel. You're more than welcome to hang out in the #office-hours. Feel free to ask questions. So if you get stuck throughout the month and you post questions there, when we get to the next show, we just go through them again and things like that. So with that, thanks everybody. Augustin and Angelo, stand by. I will PM you after the show. And we are going off the air now. Panel, any last thing to say after this? After I say goodbye, stick around and we'll wrap it up. Panel.
I have one more thing to say.
Sure, go.
If you ever want to like sit on this panel, we are actively looking for people to help us to organize this session and like contribute back. You don't need to contribute actively to any SIG or something. If you have knowledge about Kubernetes and feel like you can answer any of these questions, you're more than welcome to hang out every third Wednesday.
Yeah. So the way it works is I have a panelist. There's about 10 of them. And a few days before I said, hey, who's going to show up for this one? And as long as we have enough to run the show, they show up. So the commitment's not even like, I say it's an hour in a month, but if you can't show up that thing, we have enough people where we can run a panel. So it's an excellent way to go. I think Chris started off with Office Hours in the project, and now he's been speaking at KubeCon. Works at Google now. Look at that. All started because of Office Hours. I'm just kidding.
Once you get hooked, there's really no going back.
Hooked, yeah. So like, don't and like I said, I started the show to learn Kubernetes. I don't know a lot about Kubernetes still to this day. So I figure it's just a fun place to participate, and we can all learn from each other and have a good time. So with that, congratulations, T-shirts owners. Thanks, panel. We are hang out for a second panel. And for everyone else, we will see everyone either later today or next month. Thank you. Everyone wave. All right. Whew.